Every sari has a story. When the Pact began, I was inundated with messages from women saying they had saris, but they didn't have stories. And I would write back to them and say, wear the sari, let it whisper its story to you. The 100 Sari Pact began on 1st of March 2015, a promise between two women to wear their saris 100 times through the year and tell their sari stories. And within a month, it was like the floodgates of memories had opened, and we witnessed an unprecedented sharing of stories that entire year on social media. As much as I was sharing my own stories on social media, I also got a chance to sort of kind of step back and also view what was happening here from just one post that I had put up to it actually going out of my circle of influence and into the universe. We were all connecting and we were building the sari narrative of our lives. We realized that we were fairly similar people. We liked the same things, we thought in the same manner, we celebrated our present, we respected our past, we cherished our memories, we valued the same kind of traits, and also we worried and hoped for our future together. We believed that we were becoming a community and a community of storytellers. Shanti Nogutu. She's from Hyderabad and she lives in Norway. And she started writing about how she loved wearing saris, and she wore the most gorgeous saris also. And in fact, in Norway, she wore the saris quite proudly right through. And all her friends used to join her, even her foreign friends used to join her in the sari wearing. So she was a big champion of the sari. But she did write about her regret of not having any of her mother's saris. Her mother had passed. And in fact, she had the saris of her mother that belonged to her mother in a trunk, which got burnt in a fire in Hyderabad. So on the Pact, she had written about this regret of hers. And that year, she went to Chicago. And that's her with the 100 Sari Pact banner almost that she carried. But she met a lady over there who was her mother's friend from college. And this lady got her a package and she handed it over to her and said, this is for you. And when Shanti opened it, she saw that it was a sari, but it was not a new sari, it was a worn sari. It was an old sari. And she sort of questioned, and she said, this belongs to your mother. And as college friends, they used to share clothes, and the sari is like a one-fit-all. It fits anybody. You can share it so, so easily. And this sari just remained with this friend. And she thought, especially after reading on the Sari Pact, that Shanti was regretting that she had no saris from her mother. She thought that she would return a mother's legacy to her daughter. I was, and here she is in the sari. I was at a meeting, at a corporate meeting that was ending, and I was just getting up to leave, and the CEO said he would walk me out, and he wanted to tell me his sari story. And he told me that every time that he imagined a sari, he saw his Pati, his grandmother, standing in front of him. An only child of working parents, he would come home from school to Pati. Pati would take care of him. Pati would feed him, cook for him. It was on Pati's lap that he would sleep in the afternoons, on summer afternoons, hot summer afternoons. It was Pati's pallu that she used to fan him. It was Pati's pallu that was sort of used to calm him down from his tears. And also he remembered the mock anger that Pati had every time he washed his hands and he wiped his hands on her pallu and ran away. So a lifetime of childhood memories really in the pallu of the sari. And like I said, he just remembered his grandmother every time he thought of a sari. So it's not just women who told sari stories, men told sari stories too. And a lot of times, the stories were also about the men in our lives. A delightful story from a very young girl who wore her sari for the first time for graduation. And she retold the story, and she wore her sari, and she was just stepping out of the house when her father stopped her, and he knelt down and straightened out the pleats for her, then wished her luck and said, go ahead. And she had seen him actually do this for his wife, her mother, every single time that she wore a sari. So just a nice, kind, confident man doing this and looking after the people that he loved. So, it was kind of magical what was happening. We realized that the telling of the stories to complete strangers, it was not common. And yet, people didn't stop telling their story. Memory. Memory is porous, and we hold dear to our heart our defining moments of our life, really, good and bad. And the next story is about Kiran. She grew up in Hubli, a daredevil of a woman, grew up with her sisters and very progressive parents. She went to college with her hair tied up, riding a motorcycle. And the time that it came for her marriage, her father thought he found her a good suitor, and he got her married, gave her a grand wedding, and a grand trousseau of saris to take home, to take to a new home. Life was different for Kiran once she got married. In a small town, large family, joint family, different values, different belief. This was a home of privilege, and in privilege resides entitlement. She had her 2 children, her 2 boys in that home, but she wasn't happy in her marriage. And she also was very worried for her boys because she thought that they were growing up in an environment that could turn dangerous very quickly. So she knew that what she had to do, and she did it. And on the day that she walked out of the house with her 2 boys, she carried 6 saris from her trousseau to come back to her father's house. She is now a very, very successful entrepreneur. She worked hard, and her sons are now young men, and they've seen their mother work hard, and she wears her saris with pride, with resolve, and she's always there to help anyone else who needs any kind of support. The next story is from Pakistan, of Nani. It's one of my favorite stories, really. Nani was a young girl in Bombay, and she got married and moved to Lahore. And we all know that some of our people just turned into a different country overnight, with Pakistan being made. And Nani had seen her share of struggle. She was a very, very strong woman. When her own granddaughter was leaving for the US from Pakistan for further studies, she handed over a sari of hers, and she said, if you ever find that you have hardship, then you melt this. It has real zari. So Nani was from an era really when the saris were woven in real silver and gold. And women have done this forever. They've supported their families by selling their jewelry, by melting their saris for the silver and gold. And Nani, endearingly, perhaps innocently, was also teaching her granddaughter lessons in thrift. A 5,000-year-old garment, that's how old the sari is, was teaching us, telling us so much about ourselves. In every story that we wrote, we were really trying to answer one question: who am I? And in the telling of our stories, it was inevitable that the story of the weaver would also come out. Pam, she's an American woman, and she came to India for, I think, a 2-year assignment with an IT company, and she fell in love with the sari, and she embraced it. And she also fell in love with silk. So she made it her project outside of office on the weekends and in her free time to actually cover the story of silk. So, you know, every weekend she would set out with her driver, her camera in tow, and she would be interviewing the farmers who grew the mulberry leaves on which the silkworms fed on. She would be at the auction houses. She also met a lot of weavers. And in Kanchipuram once, she met this weaver and his wife. She had gone visiting their home. And he told her how really the power looms were taking over. It was no longer profitable to be a weaver, and how their own children didn't want to be weavers anymore. They were looking at alternate ways of earning their livelihood. And Pam actually just curiously asked his wife, what did you wear for your wedding? Did he actually spin that sari for you? And she brought out a sari and she said, I wore this. It was a grand Kanjivaram, of course. And not only for her wedding, but she had worn it for her son's naming ceremony and many, many important weddings and functions of her own home. And then the weaver asked Pam, do you want to buy it? Pam was aghast and, of course, protested, but then she realized that they wanted the money, they needed the money. So she did buy that sari. She came away back into Bangalore. She had it done from where it was giving way. She dry cleaned it. She went back to Kanchipuram, to their home, to the weaver's home, and she told the weaver, don't ever sell your wife's wedding sari again. and she gifted it back to this lady. A stranger, a foreign woman, returning dignity almost and cherished memories of a lifetime to this woman. I've said this often in the past on the Pact, that we are all connected. And I firmly believe that as I tell more and more stories from the Pact, that all we have to do is tell our stories fearlessly, humbly, graciously, and we will find our connections. Telling our stories it's just good for us. I think it heals you when someone listens to your story, when you tell your story to someone. And also, we began to get sort of united in ideas that we found were common and in ideas that we believed in. For example, Jaya Pandey, she joined the Pact from Boston. She used the Pact as a platform to spread awareness on autism. Her own son, Anand, she has worked tirelessly to be accepted, to be integrated for Anand in school, in society, back home in America, also back home in India when she visits here. You know how people tend to ask, oh, is your son, is there something wrong? So she's really, really worked hard on that. And she actually found that a lot of parents from the Pact were reaching out to her now that she had begun talking about autism, had begun to talk to her and ask her advice. It was almost like a support group that was happening. So Priya from Bombay reached out to Jaya, and like I said, they have a really, really lovely support group going. It's very humbling, empowering also that a pact between two women was accepted and adopted by lakhs and lakhs of women from around the world. And that the Pact became, the Sari Pact became an instrument of change, of dialogue, of accepting, and of lasting friendships, like you see here. And last, a story, a fierce story to end, but a story from a brave man. Alex knew that he was a different person while he was growing up. His father didn't understand it. His mother sensed it and worried for her son, for the choices he was making and how he would face them in the future. But every time that Alex would get on stage, take the mic, in his alter ego of Maya, illusion, he's always wondered if women feel as powerful and as beautiful as he does on stage. Every sari has a story. We wear our history, and we are all connected.